The Cleveland Browns just hit a breaking point, and no one seems surprised. Joe Flacco, the 40-year-old veteran presence the Browns continue to lean on, threw yet another back-breaking interception this weekend. And the moment it happened, the reaction was instant. Groans from fans, boos echoing across the field, and social media exploding with the same 5 words that have been dominating Cleveland sports talk all season. We want Shadore Sanders. Now, normally in football, a single interception doesn't define a quarterback. But this wasn't just any interception. This was exactly what everyone expected. In fact, fans and even YouTubers like MD Dog TV were predicting it hours before kickoff. That's how predictable this has become. When your quarterback's mistakes are scheduled like clockwork, you don't have an NFL starter. You have an accident waiting to happen. And here's the part that truly stings for Cleveland fans. This wasn't some rookie with jitters trying to figure things out. This wasn't an untested backup scrambling under pressure. This was the man the Browns coaching staff is leaning their hopes on. A former star who clearly no longer has the ability to carry a franchise, yet still keeps getting the nod. It wasn't just a bad throw either. The pick looked like something a nervous freshman would cough up in his first college start. No receiver even in the picture. No logic to the read. Just a ball lobbed straight to the defense. A rookie mistake from a man with almost 2 decades of NFL tape. And if that's what you're asking your locker room to rally behind, well, no wonder this fan base is losing patience. But here's the twist. The frustration isn't only about Flacco. It's about what's happening behind him. Because every single time cameras pan over to the sideline, sitting on the bench with his helmet next to him, is Shadore Sanders. The rookie quarterback fans see as the future. The one with the accuracy, the composure, and the leadership pedigree to bring Cleveland out of this endless cycle of despair. The one who right now isn't even being given a chance. And that's where this rises from ordinary frustration to full-blown outrage. Why are you letting a veteran drag your offense through the mud every Sunday when the one person with upside is standing right there? Why are you pretending this team has no better options when your most promising option has been on the roster since week 1? It's driving fans mad, and you can feel it in the tone of the coverage. MD Dog TV even broke it down bluntly. Real fans want Shadore Sanders. Fake fans want Dylan Gabriel. That's how divided this fan base is becoming, not because of losses alone, but because the choices being made seem so disconnected from reality, so stubborn, that people are starting to wonder if the Browns coaching staff is purposefully tanking. Think about that for a second. This isn't about winning anymore. It's about trust. Trust in your team to make the right call. Trust that your franchise wants to compete instead of clinging to a broken plan. And once that trust erodes with fans, it's almost impossible to get it back. That's why this interception feels like more than just another stat line for Joe Flacco. It feels like a warning siren, a flashing red light screaming that if the Browns don't make this switch soon, not only could the season be lost, but the entire culture inside this franchise could slip beyond saving. Because what's worse than having no quarterback? Having one with potential and doing absolutely nothing with him. Sometimes a big play catches everyone off guard, but in the case of Joe Flacco's latest interception, nobody, literally nobody, was surprised. Fans guessed it before kickoff. Analysts predicted it. Even YouTubers had posted videos hours earlier saying it was inevitable. And sure enough, right on cue, there it was. Another moment that left Browns supporters rolling their eyes instead of gasping in shock. Because this wasn't an interception caused by elite defense or by a desperate heave late in the game. No, This was the type of pass you expect from a first-year quarterback pressed into action before he's ready. The ball sailed into coverage with 0 receivers in the area, an absolute gift-wrapped turnover, the kind that makes viewers question if the quarterback even saw the same field as everyone else. Coming from a 40-year-old veteran, it's inexcusable. This is where things shift from acceptable NFL mistakes to flat-out coaching negligence. Everyone knows veteran quarterbacks are supposed to bring stability. They're supposed to prevent chaos. They're specifically on the roster to avoid these exact kinds of mistakes. Because when a rookie makes them, you chalk it up to growing pains. When a supposed leader makes them, you chalk it up to reality that he's past his prime. So why does this keep happening? Week after week, Flacco is putting the Browns behind the 8 ball before the second quarter even begins. The offense sputters, the momentum dies, and suddenly the defense is back on the field paying the price for mistakes they never caused. And yet the coaching staff acts like this is acceptable, like it's not dragging the entire team into quicksand. But let's go beyond X's and O's here, because for the fan base, this interception wasn't just about the play. It was about perception. Watching a coach willingly roll out a strategy that everyone knew was doomed before the opening whistle. It builds a sense of futility. It makes supporters question what the actual plan is. And it shines an even brighter spotlight on the one name millions of fans are chanting, Shadore Sanders. Because sitting on that sideline was not just a young quarterback learning the ropes, but the very guy who represents hope. The guy who could make mistakes like this and still be forgiven, because fans would at least know the future was learning and growing. Instead, the Browns are watching a veteran make rookie mistakes, while the rookie, who could be benefiting from even limited reps. And here's the kicker. This interception didn't just hurt the Browns in the moment. It added fuel to the growing firestorm online. Within minutes, clips went viral. Fan reactions popped up across Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube. And all of them carried the same message. We've seen this before, and we're tired of it. This wasn't just about losing a down, or even points. It was about credibility. Because when the same mistakes pile up week after week with no sign of accountability, it doesn't just feel like bad football. It feels like a team refusing to face reality. And that's why this moment stood out so much. It wasn't shocking. It was predictable. And in sports, predictability is the death of hope. The Browns' veteran quarterback isn't just throwing interceptions anymore. He's throwing away patience. He's throwing away trust. And he's running out of time. If Joe Flacco's interceptions are frustrating, the Browns' refusal to play Shadore Sanders is downright infuriating. Because every time Flacco lobs another pass into the hands of a defender, cameras immediately pan to the sideline, and there sits Shedeur, helmet off, locked in, frustration written across his face. And fans can't stop asking the same exact question. Why isn't he on the field? Let's break this down. Shadore Sanders isn't some raw, unproven prospect who needs years of development before taking a snap. This isn't a case of drafting a project quarterback in the 6th round and hiding him while he learns the system. No. Shedeur was one of college football's most electrifying players just 1 year ago. At Colorado, he threw for over 4,100 yards, completed 74% of his passes, and racked up 37 touchdowns with only 10 interceptions. Those numbers don't belong to someone who might be ready someday. Those numbers belong to someone who has already shown the ability to thrive under relentless pressure with an offensive line that collapsed almost every play. And here's the most puzzling part. The Browns know all this. They traded draft capital to get him. Reports from inside the building say he's been impressive in meetings, poised in practices, and sharp during preseason games. The tape is there. The talent is there. The locker room respect is there. So what's missing? That's what fans can't reconcile. Instead of seeing what Shedeur can do on Sundays, they're stuck watching an aging veteran make mistakes that rookies are supposed to make. And that contrast, watching Flacco get endless opportunities while Shedeur gets none, is fueling the outrage. Think about it from the perspective of the players. When your supposed leader is turning the ball over and you see the guy right next to him making all the right moves in practice, how long before you start questioning the coaching staff? This isn't just about optimism anymore. It's about fairness, accountability, and basic logic. Even many of the veterans on the team reportedly believe Shedeur deserves a shot. Insider quotes suggest offensive and defensive players alike have taken note of his preparation, his confidence, and, most importantly, his ability to throw the football accurately and decisively. Yet on game day, that talent is locked away, while an offense led by Flacco bottoms out. Fans, meanwhile, have made their feelings crystal clear. The chants inside Ford Field weren't whispers. They were loud, unified. "We want Shedeur." That doesn't come from casual frustration. That comes from a tipping point, the moment where a fan base feels like their team is ignoring their cries for change. And this is where the Browns' decision feels less like strategy and more like stubbornness. Kevin Stefanski continues to repeat the line, "Joe gives us the best chance to win." But after weeks of evidence proving the opposite, the phrase has lost credibility. In fact, it sounds almost insulting to the people watching. Because win or lose, fans know what they want. They want growth. They want hope. They want to believe in someone who could be the long-term answer instead of slogging through short-term embarrassment. The Browns are acting like playing Shedeur is a gamble. But the real gamble? It's sticking with Joe Flacco until the entire fan base walks away in disgust. If there's one thing Cleveland fans are famous for, it's loyalty. Through decades of heartbreak, quarterback carousel chaos, and draft day disasters, this fan base has always stuck around. But right now, there's a civil war brewing, and it's all about who belongs under center. On one side, you've got those rallying behind Shadore Sanders. These fans are done with veterans. They don't want to watch another year of safe choices and predictable losing. They want hope. They want potential. And to them, Shedeur represents exactly that. A quarterback who could finally break the cycle of disappointment and give the Browns a real future. On the other side, a much smaller but very vocal group insisting that Dylan Gabriel should get the nod instead. And this is where things get heated. Because now, whether you agree with that or not, comments like this have ignited a storm across social media. Posts, comment sections, and fan forums are stuffed with arguments. Shedeur supporters insisting this is the only logical choice. Gabriel defenders pushing back, saying he deserves a chance too. And hovering in the background is the reality that neither of them is starting, because Joe Flacco hasn't stepped aside. But here's the key. This isn't just a football debate anymore. It's emotional. It's personal. Fans feel insulted that their voices are being ignored. When week after week the same losing formula is forced onto the field, people stop arguing X's and O's. They start questioning the heart of the organization. Look at how fans break it down. Gabriel, they argue, showed nothing in the offseason except an ability to turn the ball over. Multiple reports said he threw interception after interception when pressured. Why repeat that in games when it's already failing in practice? Shedeur, meanwhile, not only looked sharp in practice, but proved at Colorado he had the resilience to handle adversity. Strong reads, poise under pressure, efficient throws behind one of the worst offensive lines in college football. The numbers only fuel the fight. Gabriel struggled to protect the ball even before the bright lights of the NFL. Shedeur threw for over 4,000 yards and 37 touchdowns while transforming a one-win Colorado team into a legitimate program. Side by side, the comparison looks ridiculous. This fan divide has created a bigger issue for the Browns than they probably realize. Because the minute the conversation shifts from "when will we win" to "who's a real fan and who's fake," and Twitter isn't helping. Clips of Flacco's mistakes rack up millions of views. Viral posts highlight Sanders on the sidelines fuming silently while the team flounders. Memes circulate comparing stats and mocking Stefanski's decision-making. Every bit of fuel thrown onto this fire only makes the split wider and harder to control. From the outside, this might just look like the usual noise from a passionate fan base, but here's the truth. Cleveland's fans know when their team is drifting in the wrong direction, and they're not afraid to turn on each other or the franchise when it happens. That's why the Shedeur versus Gabriel argument is so intense. It's not just about names on a depth chart. It's about identity. It's about who fans believe actually cares about winning versus who's stuck in wishful thinking. Because the longer this goes on, the more divided the fan base becomes, and the more impossible it'll be to stitch back together without one thing: putting Shadore Sanders on the field. When a bad team makes bad decisions, fans usually groan, shrug, and move on. But when a team deliberately ignores the obvious solution sitting right in front of them, that's when suspicion turns into paranoia. And right now, Browns fans are asking a shocking question out loud. Is Cleveland tanking on purpose? On the surface, it might sound ridiculous, but think about what we've seen. The Browns are trotting out Joe Flacco every weekend like it's still 2012. Watching him lob passes into defenders' arms, derail drives, and flatten any spark of momentum. They've seen this movie before. They know how it ends. And yet, the coaching staff scripts the same outcome week after week. Meanwhile, on the bench, in full gear, is Shadore Sanders, the rookie with sky-high potential who has all the intangibles fans want. And not only is he not starting, he's not even being tried in garbage time. Zero opportunity, zero chance. When you weigh those details, it's no longer an irrational conspiracy theory. For a fan base scarred by decades of disappointment, the logic writes itself. The Browns must be tanking. Here's why the theory makes sense to so many frustrated supporters. The interceptions. Flacco is good for at least one or two costly picks every single game. Fans and commentators predict them before kickoff, and they happen exactly as expected. Keeping a QB that transparent in as your best chance to win feels laughable all by itself. Yet, despite horrendous offensive production, Stefanski refuses to insert Shedeur, leaving fans to wonder, what are they hiding? The playoff math. Maybe the Browns have already accepted they aren't contenders and decided to play for draft positioning. It's not a new tactic. Tanking exists in every sport. But in the NFL, pulling it off without admitting it is tricky business. And then there's the human factor. Kevin Stefanski himself. Once respected for bringing stability to a messy franchise, he's now at the center of the storm. His robotic postgame quotes about evaluating every position and "Joe gives us the best chance to win" are wearing thin. Fans no longer buy it. Media voices are openly mocking it. And ownership? Reports say they're furious. If Stefanski truly believes this team's best chance still rests on a veteran averaging 2 turnovers a week, then opponents aren't the Browns' biggest problem. Their own coach is. Of course, the Browns would never admit to tanking. No team ever does. But perception matters. The perception right now is that this staff is clinging to a game plan no fan, no analyst, and no player believes is working. Add in the whispers from inside the locker room, with veterans reportedly saying things like, "Why are we protecting guys who can't score?" And it looks less like deliberate sabotage. and more like a coach unwilling to confront his mistakes. But at the end of the day, both possibilities send the same message. This team isn't even trying to win. And when that's how your fan base feels, the damage goes far beyond the scoreboard. It seeps into trust. It erodes your culture. It convinces your most loyal supporters that they're wasting their time, just like management is wasting their talent. So maybe Cleveland isn't tanking, but if they're not, then tell me this. How is their approach any different? What happens when fans lose trust in a team is one thing, but when the locker room starts losing trust, that's when the foundation of a franchise begins to crack. And right now, whispers are growing louder in Cleveland that players themselves are running out of patience. On the surface, the Browns are still saying all the right things publicly. Post-game interviews are filled with vanilla lines about staying focused, continuing to work, and believing in the process. But behind those microphones, in the shadows of the locker room, the reality is far less polished. Veteran players, the ones who've been through years of ups and downs, are starting to show their frustration with the current quarterback situation. According to multiple reports, both offensive and defensive players have been quietly pushing for change. And the name that keeps coming up? Shadore Sanders. For offensive linemen, the frustration is simple. Protection is punishment when there's no payoff. Imagine putting your body on the line every play, absorbing brutal hits from 300-pound pass rushers, only for your quarterback to float a ball directly to the defense. According to one insider, a lineman vented privately to teammates, "We're getting our heads knocked off protecting guys who aren't scoring. Something has to change." That kind of frustration doesn't disappear with another day of practice. It lingers, it festers, and eventually it explodes. The defensive side isn't any calmer. Week after week, but when the Browns' offense can't even break 13 points most games, defenders feel their sweat and sacrifice are being wasted. One defensive leader reportedly summed it up: "We can't score for them too." It's blunt, it's harsh, but it's also the truth. And in that silence, in those frustrated pauses after games, veterans are starting to talk more openly about Shadore Sanders. They've watched him in practice. They've seen the way he prepares, learns the playbook, and carries himself with quiet confidence. They've noticed the crispness of his passes, the accuracy of his throws, and the way he reads coverages. This isn't wild hope. This is first-hand recognition. Players who've been in the league for years know when someone has it, and more of them believe Shedeur has exactly that. One unnamed veteran reportedly told local reporters off the record, "He throws the best ball on this team, period. He's ready. I don't understand what we're waiting for." This isn't just support, it's a potential fissure in the team's foundation. Because once players start advocating for a change the coaches refuse to make, the lines of loyalty are tested. Who do you believe? Your head coach preaching stability with a faltering veteran? Or your teammates who live the reality every snap? The irony is thick. Coaches argue Shedeur isn't ready because of inexperience. Yet the players, the ones actually sharing the field with him, seem to believe more in his readiness than in the current starter. And that's why the locker room's patience is at risk of snapping. Because nothing breaks trust faster than wasted effort. And right now, effort is being flushed away while potential sits. Make no mistake, if the Browns continue down this path, the revolt won't just live in rumors. It could surface in public, in blunt post-game interviews, or worse, in how hard that locker room continues to play for a coach who doesn't seem to be listening. When the Browns walked off the field after that latest collapse, you'd think the nightmare was over. But for Kevin Stefanski, the real pain started the moment the final whistle blew. Because while the Lions embarrassed the Browns on the scoreboard, the media tore him apart everywhere else. Within minutes, The clips of Joe Flacco's interceptions were being replayed across ESPN, Fox, and the NFL Network like blooper highlights. Pundits didn't just critique, they torched. One national analyst summed it up perfectly. This isn't about losing anymore. This is coaching malpractice. From Stephen A. Smith to local Cleveland radio hosts, the sentiment was the same. The Browns aren't just wasting games, they're wasting their future. Over and over, the question was repeated. Why draft Shadore Sanders, hype him up in the preseason, then bury him while a 40-year-old veteran drags this offense to the lowest scoring average in the league? Stefanski's press conference didn't help. With his usual calm, almost robotic demeanor, he delivered yet again the same tired line. We're going to continue to evaluate every position. Joe gives us the best chance to win right now. Fans weren't buying it. Reporters weren't buying it. And on social media, those clips of him saying, Joe gives us the best chance, were instantly turned into memes, spliced over Flacco's interceptions, paired with captions like, best chance to lose. The ridicule spread fast. Local beat reporters, who normally try to strike a balance, admitted their patience had run out. Talk shows in Cleveland, usually reserved for cautious optimism, called Stefanski clueless, out of touch, even arrogant. But it wasn't just the sports world laughing. It was the fan base itself. Twitter timelines filled with jokes about Cleveland Tanker Bay and Flacco time, aka pick time. The once measured criticisms had turned into mockery. And mockery is a dangerous place for a coach to be. Because once the public starts treating you like a punchline, it's hard to regain authority. Here's the reality. NFL coaches can survive losses. What they almost never survive is humiliation. And right now, Kevin Stefanski isn't being painted as a resilient leader weathering a storm. He's being painted as the stubborn captain sinking his own ship. That humiliation doesn't just cost credibility with fans. It bleeds into the locker room. It seeps into ownership conversations. And sooner rather than later, it turns into job security questions. Kevin Stefanski isn't just on the hot seat because of Joe Flacco's interceptions. He's on the hot seat because the world is laughing, and the world agrees. The Browns are burning while their supposed future quarterback collects dust on the bench. For most NFL teams, a quarterback controversy is an occasional storyline. For the Cleveland Browns, it's practically a tradition. This franchise's history under center is so troubling, it's become a punchline, and Shadore Sanders is in danger of becoming the next chapter of that same tired story. Since the Browns returned to the NFL in 1999, they've started an unbelievable 32 different quarterbacks. 32! That's more than some franchises have had in their entire history. Fans don't just root for a team anymore. They're forced to memorize an endless rotation of jersey names stuffed in the graveyard of disappointment. The list is as long as it is painful. Tim Couch, the original savior of the rebooted Browns. Brady Quinn, the college superstar who turned into a cautionary tale. Colt McCoy, who came in with grit but little else. Johnny Manziel, whose off-field issues overshadowed any glimpses of raw talent. Baker Mayfield, who teased fans with flashes of hope before being pushed aside. And most recently, Deshaun Watson, mired in controversy and unable to live up to his massive contract. Every time, the narrative is the same. A glimmer of potential met with poor decisions, bad development, or organizational dysfunction too deep. Every time, the Browns have repeated the cycle, chewing up quarterbacks before they ever had the chance to anchor the franchise. And now, incredibly, they seem determined to do it again. Shadore Sanders is different. He's young, talented, and already proven at a high level of competition. His accuracy, leadership, and calm presence under pressure give him qualities the Browns have desperately needed for decades. On paper, he looks like the perfect opportunity to finally break the curse. But the quarterback graveyard in Cleveland doesn't need another headstone. Yet the longer Shedeur waits, the more it feels like that's exactly where this story is headed. If the Browns truly want to escape their curse, the only way is forward. That means trusting the kid, learning through his mistakes, and watching him grow in real time. Because until they make that decision, the pattern won't stop, and Cleveland will stay trapped in the same nightmare they've been living for 25 years. As if the Browns didn't already have enough pressure from fans and media, now Deion Sanders, yes, primetime himself, has stepped into the conversation. Deion isn't just Shadore's father. He's a Hall of Famer, a coaching icon at Colorado, and a media magnet whose every word makes headlines. So when he recently spoke about his son's situation in Cleveland, people paid attention. On the New Heights podcast, Deion dropped a powerful hint. Be patient and be ready. It's coming. I've got a prediction. It's going down this year. With that single comment, Deion lit a fire under the Browns organization. Fans immediately clipped and shared it across social media, adding fuel to the growing outrage over Shadore's benching. Analysts picked up on it too, framing Stefanski's decisions not just as questionable, but as an insult to a young quarterback with pedigree and a father unafraid to call things out publicly. For the Browns, this isn't just about game strategy anymore. Every week Shedeur sits, they're not just ignoring their fan base. They're ignoring one of football's most outspoken and influential figures. And when primetime predicts something is about to go down, the entire NFL listens. Now the question is, will the Browns act before Deion's words become prophecy? Every snap Shadore Sanders spends on the sideline is more than just a wasted opportunity. It's lost development. Young quarterbacks don't grow by holding clipboards. They grow by facing real defenses, feeling real pressure, and making real decisions at game speed. That's how C.J. Stroud is already carving up NFL defenses in Houston, how Anthony Richardson earned experience in Indianapolis, and how countless rookies before have been hardened. But Cleveland, they're refusing to let Shedeur learn. Instead of building his confidence and momentum, they're delaying his trajectory and risking stagnation. And perhaps worst of all, they're sending him the wrong message. Talent doesn't matter here. Experience does. Even if that experience can't win you games. If the Browns truly believe Shedeur is their future, keeping him benched isn't patience. It's negligence. And every wasted game could end up costing years in his growth. The Browns have reached the edge of the cliff. Fans know it. The locker room knows it. The media definitely knows it. And deep down, even the coaching staff must realize it too. Joe Flacco is finished as a solution. The only way forward is obvious. Give Shedeur Sanders the ball. Refusing to play him isn't buying time or waiting for the right moment. It's wasting opportunity, killing momentum, and fueling division inside and outside the organization. Every game Shedeur doesn't play is another blow to his growth, another nail in this season's coffin, and another reason fans feel abandoned. Cleveland has tried everything else. Veterans, stopgaps, patchwork plans, none of it works. Shedeur might not be perfect from the start, but he represents hope. And in the NFL, hope matters just as much as results. The Browns can either cling to the past, or they can finally take the leap into their future. Because the truth is simple. If they don't make this move now, they may regret it for years.